So tell me something about what iCanConnect is.
All right. iCanConnect is actually a byproduct of something called the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act, otherwise known as the CVAA. That act was an act of Congress which mandates that things like video and other communications facilities be made accessible to people with disabilities. And they recognized during the creation of this act that the most disenfranchised group of all folks with disabilities when it comes to modern communications is people who are deafblind, because typically they cannot afford the equipment that's available or the training to use the equipment. So the FCC, which oversees this program, has allocated during a 3-year pilot program in which we're in the 3rd year now, they've allocated a total of $10 million per year around the country and designated one entity per state to run this program. The program provides distance communications equipment. In other words, the equipment has to enhance the person's access to the cellular network, the internet, the landline telephone network, or some other advanced electronic communication network. And it can be any variety, any combination of equipment. For some people who are, and let me back up and say who's eligible for this program. It is people who are deafblind according to the National Helen Keller Act definition of deafblindness, which basically is a functional definition that says that you have combined hearing and vision loss, which together pose a significant challenge to you in your daily life. So if they meet that requirement, that doesn't mean by any means that they have to be totally deaf and totally blind. They could have a progressive disorder such as Usher's syndrome, which affects both hearing and sight in a progressive manner throughout the person's life. Or they could have maybe no sight but some hearing, or maybe enough vision to see an iPad but no hearing, or they may have enough hearing to hear voiceover on the iPhone or the iPad but perhaps not have any vision at all. So it's the two disabilities in combination. There is an income requirement. The household income cannot be more than 400% of the national poverty level. If the person is on certain federally recognized low-income programs such as Medicaid, which here in Massachusetts is Mass Health, supplemental security income, if they're on Section 8 housing, a number of other programs can make them automatically income eligible for this program. So we go through an application process. The person would typically contact us either by calling us, or they might go to our website, which is www.icanconnect.org, and they would find out, maybe they or a family member would find out about the program and would then apply. There's an application that has to be filled out. It requires someone to attest to the person's disabilities. It could be a teacher or a doctor or some other professional person who's willing to put their signature to the fact that this person has the dual disability. Once the person is deemed eligible, we send someone to their home, and that person does an assessment, which is a discussion to determine what communication equipment does this person have now, what are their skills, because they do have to have prerequisite skills. We can't teach Braille. We can't teach someone from the ground up to use a computer because we just don't have that kind of funding. Just to give you an idea of the funding, $10 million sounds like a lot of money, but it is parceled out throughout the United States. Each state gets an annual allocation based on the state's population. So, for example, Massachusetts gets $190,000 per year. That pays for the equipment, some of which is quite expensive. Some Braille devices can cost up to $5,000 or $6,000. Even the screen reader program that I use, JAWS, is $1,000. So it's the equipment, and it also pays for someone to go and assess the person and also train the person to use the equipment.
But it doesn't cost the person anything to take the program.
Correct. The only thing is that we cannot pay for any kind of service. So we don't pay for internet service or telephone service. If the person gets equipment from us that would be used with the internet, they have to agree ahead of time to sign up for internet service.
Okay.
Because we're just not funded for that. A person who has maybe never heard anything about this program could call us. We have a national phone number set up, which is 1-800-825-4595. And if someone calls that, they will be asked a few questions. The call taker will determine what state the person is in and just determine that there's some relevance, and then they will forward that person's contact information to us through a database that we use, and then we would reach out to the person and get the application process started.
Well, Jerry, this is absolutely fascinating. I think we could talk for much longer, but we've actually come to the end of our time. I'm really glad that you came in today because this information is something that a lot of people just don't know about. They don't know, if they are deaf and blind, that you can actually access the internet and your iPhone. And the rest of the population isn't aware that these kinds of things are truly available. So thank you so much for coming and sharing so much with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Totally my pleasure. And you are listening to The Lemonade Stand. This is Linda Samuels. Remember, you can go to iCanConnect.org or call 800-825-4595.